My thing that I truly believe is my secret sauce is that everything started as a side hustle. I had to build up the confidence in myself to go all in on every single thing. I feel like there are two camps of people. The people who are like, jump and the net will appear, and the people who are like, let me weave my net so that I feel safe enough to make the leap. I'm the weaver. I'm the person that I'm like, I need to trust that this calling is right, and I need to experiment with it first to know how it feels. Every single time I've started anything, I've always started it as a side hustle with no pressure, no stakes. I don't want money involved. I always do it as like a creative outlet. And then when it feels good, or if it feels good, I pivot into it. One of the reasons why I feel like I've been able to do it successfully is because I built a brand, not a business. What I mean by that is, by definition, a business is like the product or offer that you have for sale. But a brand is a personality behind those offers. And even when I was a wedding photographer, I was showing up talking about struggles and joys and triumphs and all these things. So when all of a sudden I was like, I think I'm gonna get out of weddings, which is exactly what I've known for. I was the top wedding photographer in the state for 4 years in a row. Leaving that behind is a really big deal. But I had so many life moments when we were trying to grow our family where I was like, this isn't it anymore. It's just not it. I didn't hang up my camera and say, peace out, I'll figure out what's next.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle.
But you know you're capable of more. And you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best.
So today let's learn from one of the best, Jenna Kutcher, and my take on her top 10 rules of success. Enjoy.
I kept shooting, but I did less and less and less. And there's a chapter in the book that talks about finding your enough point. And what I mean by that is finding the place where you can continue doing what is giving you the security you need to free up your time to get the creativity back. So towards the end of my wedding career, I was shooting 7 weddings, which was paying our mortgage and our bills so that I wasn't worrying about that. But I wasn't doing 35 weddings in a summer and killing myself over it. And so I have been able to pivot because, one, I do so safely and slowly. But 2, I let myself be creative again without the pressure. And I think one thing that is so hard for us as entrepreneurs is we immediately think, how can I monetize that? Or like, how can I get paid for my time, right? Because we value our time is so expensive. But I have built a brand that allows me to move and evolve and change and grow and invite people in on that without being like and today I'm this version, and tomorrow I'm this version, and you've got to follow me. But it's like, hey, I'm curious about this thing. I think I'm going to give it a shot. I'm just going to try it out and see what happens. And I invite people with that to come on that journey with me. I am all about like showing up imperfectly. I was telling you as I walked in today, I'm like, this is amazing. I was like, I record in my closet. It's one of the top podcasts in the country. And I literally record in a tiny closet with no team and just a microphone. And I still do that 5 years in. But that's the approachable alignment that I need to make things feel good for me. And so yes, I've pivoted time and time again, and I think I'm going to continue doing so because I kind of get bored, or I kind of have different like calls that I'm like curious about. But everything starts as a side hustle. And I feel like the world of entrepreneurship has neglected this segment of the audience who is in that trial phase or the experimentation phase. They don't feel like they fit. They don't feel like they're an entrepreneur. They can't say they're an entrepreneur, and they don't feel like they're a hobbyist. They have this dream and this curiosity, but they're like, where do I belong? I don't fit in this world that we've given them. And so I just want to say, like, if you are in that experimentation phase, freaking have fun with it. Get creative, but don't box yourself in or create another ladder that you're climbing that might not be going in the right direction.
Rule number 2, trust yourself.
I was just in this season of life where I was really learning how to trust myself. And when I say trust myself, I mean, I was leaning into this calling to slow down, but to trust that like if and when I'm ready to run, I'm going to go, and I'm going to go fast. I'm going to go hard. And I know I'll remember how to get my feet back under me. Yeah. And so when I talk about like, screw the morning routine, screw all that, like everything has a season. And I think a lot of us are coming out of this last season that the world collectively experienced thinking, what next? What now? Yeah. And am I happy? Am I faking it? What do I want for my life? And so I really love the notion that we're kind of in this mix of like, there's 2 camps. there's the hustle culture, and then there's like the manifestation side. And I have respect for people in both of them.
Yeah.
But I've realized that for me, the magic is like when the woo, like that visualizing meets the work. And how we balance that and approach that, whether fast or slow, is like where I'm at. And so the book is a call to invite people to figure out, what season are you in? Is it the woo? Is it the work? Or is it the mix of both? And how do you live that out as your truth?
Rule number 3, find your passion.
I've been thinking a lot lately about this messaging of like, pursue your passions, go out and do what you love. And I honestly think a lot of adults right now aren't even sure what they're passionate about or don't even feel passion in their lives, right? And so this messaging is meant to be helpful, but sometimes it can almost be like hurtful in like, I don't even feel passion as a human being right now. How do I pursue something? And I've realized when I trace things back, a lot of times I don't necessarily know what I want, but I know what I don't want. And I think sometimes that can tell you just as much, if not more. So when I got that 5-year plan, I was like, I don't want this. I don't know how I'm going to get out of this, but I'm going to figure out a way. And so I bought a $300 camera on Craigslist, started becoming really passionate about photography. I bought it as a way to find passion again. It wasn't meant to be the business. It was something that I was curious about, something I wanted to be creative with. I was in this stage of life where I was like, I feel like my soul is getting sucked out of me in corporate. How do I remember that like childlike wonder or awe? And photography was something I was curious about. And so I bought the camera, started getting really passionate. This was pre-Pinterest, and I was planning my wedding to my college sweetheart. And I was going to the few wedding blogs that existed and saving images onto my computer, driving them into a Microsoft Word document and building my own Pinterest boards. And I emailed myself the collage to my work email and went to print it on the beautiful color printer at the office and was laminating it, because why would you not laminate your dreams, right? And
you have to, because there's things like coffee spills and water. You got to laminate
I need
it.
a good layer of protection in my life. And
we all do. Yes.
I was laminating it and I heard this crunch noise and I was like, oh my God. And this is after hours. I'm in the office and I am like prying the jaws of the laminator off of this collage that now says photos by Jenna Lee in a beautiful script on the top. And I'm like, how am I going to explain this? What am I going to do? Because I was so careful to protect my work identity and to really keep my passion separate. And I think a lot of us have gone through life almost compartmentalizing ourselves or like shape shifting based on the settings we find ourselves in. And I remember I'm like looking for the manual. The manual was chucked 20 years ago. Like there is no manual. Google's not giving me anything. It tells me to find the manual that doesn't exist. And I'm like, here I am. And there's this line in the book that says like, I felt like I was riding two Clydesdales going in opposite directions. Like I knew I had this dream and this vision, but where I was and where I found myself was so in a different place. And I had to figure out, what do I do? And long story short, the next day, Kathy, our office assistant, was in there and I had to awkwardly be like, hey, Kath, I jammed the laminator last night and she's prying out these things and it's these wedding photos of like brides and cornfields. And I'm like, I was like, I'm really passionate about this thing and I do it outside of work and I haven't really told anyone about it. It's really close to my heart, but like I really love photography. And something fascinating happened when I shared it with her because she lit up. And she was like, oh, Jenna, when I'm at home, I love to scrapbook. And I should have known because literally her bulletin boards were like the perfect, immaculate, like borders and everything on it. But it was this first time where I actually expressed my passion to someone outside of the person I shared a home with. And there is something so freeing about it. And it also reminded me that like when we're passionate, even if somebody has no passion in what we're curious about, they're invited to share their passions with the world. And I think the work that you and I do is a clear example of that. The way you guide people through B School is like, here's what I'm passionate about. Tell me about yours. And even if I have no interest in it, I care about it because you do. And that's huge.
Yeah.
Rule number 4, set your boundaries.
How many of you are moving through life resenting either humans in it, resenting what you're about to do for the day, resenting your work or the things that are distracting you? Essentially, a lack of boundaries can negatively impact basically all aspects of your life. And I think a lot of us have had that consequence in our life, whether it's today or we've had it in the past. I truly believe that a lack of boundaries can lead us to burnout. And I think the world is kind of like collectively in this state or getting really close to this state of burnout. So one part in my book, and I'm just going to read it to you. This is a section from my book. It says this. It says, in case it's unclear, my burnout didn't happen overnight. Does it ever? It was slow and sweltering, adding a deadline here and an event there until my commitments had become a full-on bonfire, raging out of control with little room to breathe. I didn't realize until it was too late, but I can see now exactly how it happened. Somewhere between shooting my first wedding as a photographer and the night of my undoing, I had tricked myself into believing that boundaries were for weak people, whatever that meant. I thought I was the kind of person who could face the hardship of stress and exhaustion without having to do anything about it. I thought I could just power through a little bit longer and then I'd take a break once things slowed down. How many of you guys have told yourself that? Once things slow down, I'll do that thing. But things never slowed down because I didn't slow down. Every time that small voice inside of me asked me to slow down, I would tell myself it was just the temptation to give up, to lose my momentum, or to cash in a break too early. Like it's something I had to suffer through in order to learn. Like it was the voice of pessimism. And me, well, I was an optimist, an overcomer, an achiever, stopping, turning back, slowing down, saying no. I wanted those options out of my playbook. I wanted to prove to myself and everyone who was watching that I didn't need breaks. I wasn't tired. I didn't need a rest. It wasn't time to sit on the bench. So that is a part from my book. And that kind of shares a little bit about how my lack of boundaries led to a massive burnout. And I want to share that piece because I think for a lot of us, we connect this idea of boundaries with this belief that like weak people set them, that like it's up to us to power through, to forge on. And what I think is really fascinating is that the more boundaries I've invited into my life, and more specifically, the more I've communicated my boundaries, the more respect I have, but also the more opportunity I have to flex the boundary muscle and recognize that it actually makes me really strong. I want to talk about how it is so important, one, that we set boundaries, but two, that we revisit them. So here's a little story. We live next to a bowling alley, and we recently took Coco, my 3.5-year-old, to the bowling alley. And have you guys ever bowled with like the bumpers up? Like you pop the bumpers up and then it's impossible for you to go into the gutter. Well, I look at boundaries like the bumpers in my life. When I have boundaries and they're popped up, when I throw that ball down the lane, it is going to go and be aimed straight. Whenever I don't have bumpers in my life, AKA boundaries, that's when I go in the gutter. And so I was thinking about, oh my gosh, this is the perfect analogy because boundaries literally are the guardrails that most of us need in our life. Now, I don't know about you, but I was raised in the Midwest. I live in the Midwest. I am a people pleaser to my core. And this notion of boundaries used to make me feel like I was just going to disappoint people. Me saying no equaled disappointment for others. And that made me highly uncomfortable. And so I've had to learn over the years this one important truth. And this is a line from my book. And I want for you to write this down. Boundaries do not keep things, people, or opportunities out of your life. They keep you in your life. Let me repeat that. Boundaries do not keep things or people or opportunities out of your life. They keep you in your life. And this is so massively important because I think a lot of us look at boundaries as almost like this fence around us, right? Like keeping things out. When I have boundaries, I am keeping the world at bay. But in reality, when you have boundaries, it is establishing this clear distinction of how you need to be kept into your life. Something that's been really interesting about my journey in the last 2 years is that I've learned that I have ADHD. I never knew I had ADHD. My dad had it. Never thought to tell his children that he had it. And now all of us kids as grown adults are now discovering, wow, we have neurodivergent brains. That means that my brain operates in a really funky way. And if I don't establish boundaries, I cannot focus. I cannot get tasks done. My brain feels like it has a million tabs open. And so when I think about this idea of boundaries and staying in the lane and moving in the right direction, it really reminds me of how important it is for us to be focused on the pins, to be focused on the right thing.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5, learn to deal with criticism.
I think there's a very big difference between criticism and commentary. Commentary can offer suggestions or ideas or inspiration. Criticism is just straight up mean. But for me, my loop that's on is the louder one. It's like, imagine a stereo and like you're turning the dial up. Like, which voices are you letting in and which ones are you turning down? And it's funny to me sometimes because Drew and I went viral years ago because there's a picture of us on a beach together. And someone had said, like, how did you, a girl like you, manage to land a guy like him? And he's super fit and his passion is fitness. Like, that guy gets so itchy if he doesn't get in a full workout. Like, I am not like that. I've never been like that.
You and me both.
Oh my gosh. So it was hilarious because in that picture, I thought I looked great. And so that comment came out and I was like, what are you talking about? I think I look fabulous in that photo. Like, that swimsuit is... And so it's funny because conversations happen about my body because I'm very open about it. But when I post photos, it's because I'm proud of myself. And it's because I'm proud that that shout isn't even a part of my processing anymore. And so, especially with women, it's so, I mean, you could probably, well, actually, I'm curious, as a man, could you repeat some of the nasty things that you've heard about yourself verbatim? Like, you remember word for word what somebody has said to you, or do you not? No. So I think women, you could ask most women, like, just tell me some of the things that have been said about you. And we could probably verbatim tell you the mean things. But we probably couldn't put words to the kind things or the good things or the beautiful things. And it's actually proven that our brains like focus on the negative because it could include tips on how we could improve or do better or whatever. It's like we're wired to fixate on that stuff neurologically. But the problem is like when we just let that be the thing and we don't try to self-correct. And so I often think about like, is the world's criticism and feedback my Garmin, my GPS, if we still had those suckers? Or is it just the passenger that's chatting away and I can just turn the dial down on the stereo? And that's what I've gotten really good at.
Rule number 6, ask for help.
We try to do everything on our own because we don't believe that someone else can carry the vision for us. And I realized that through asking for help, I finally said, hey, can you like help just respond to people in my emails so that like if I log off for 2 weeks so that I can lay in the fetal position, my clients are still loved on and cared for? And I remember just the first feeling of help. It felt like, you know, when you like clench your jaw and you unclench and you don't realize like I've probably been clenching my jaw for like 3 years straight.
Yes.
That was that moment where I was like, oh, or when you take a deep breath and you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't actually been breathing. That's what it felt like, getting help. And help and asking for it is like a muscle. Like the more you do it, the better you get at it, the better you are at accepting it. And when I look at my team today, we are a small but mighty force of women. Oh man, we are awesome. But I recognize that like I am the visionary and my team is the missionaries. Like they are out there helping me carry this mission forward. And I have this line where it just says like where 1 + 1 = 1,000,000, because if I can impact 1,000,000 lives, I can't do that by myself. I can set the vision, I can cast the net, but like my missionaries are the people on the ground, writing the copy, preparing the interviews, like helping me to show up. And when we ask for help, and there's so many ways you can get help, whether you get like a food delivery service or Instacart or Uber. I mean, like we have so much help at our disposal. But when you start to ask for it, you start to receive it. And then as you receive it, like you come back home to yourself, you get that time back, that margin back, that space back that is required to move forward. So I've gotten really good at asking for help, like really good at it. And I've learned that for some people, their purpose is in helping. So me asking them to help me helps them live out their purpose.
Rule number 7, find your enough point.
I think nowadays, if you pull entrepreneurs, burnout is one of the number one things that people are struggling with. I think it's an epidemic in its own way. And for me, it was that elusive 6-figure goal, right? Because I went from this place with titles that sounded so fancy to proving myself as a first-generation entrepreneur to how do I sound successful, impressive? And that 6-figure thing really felt big to me. And also being from the Midwest, 6 figures is, you know, a lot of money.
It's huge. It's for most of us, right? I felt that way too.
Yes. Yep. And I remember the day I hit 6 figures, I was tracking my spreadsheet and I was in the shower washing my hair with the same herbal essence that I did the day before and wondering like, when are the angels going to sing? Where are my gold cellophane balloons that all the bloggers have when they hit 100K? All of these things. And I'm like, nothing about my life has changed. In fact, I don't even feel like I'm enjoying my life. And it was just this wake up call because I think a lot of times we set these goals and we arrive at them and they don't feel good. And we're like, maybe I just need to do more. Maybe I need more. But I was like, maybe this is enough. Maybe in fact, I was happier before all of this, before the more. And I remember I sat down with Drew the next day because I just had this moment of like, I'm exhausted. I'm missing out on my life. I'm saying no to the things that I say matter to me and saying yes to more work just to hit this number that I can't even enjoy. My bank account looks great, but I haven't enjoyed any of it. And I sat down, I had this color-coded spreadsheet and I said to him, I said, I was so much happier when I made 50K. Can we go back to that? I said, I know this might feel backwards, but I would way rather get back my time. I want time. Like I left so that I wasn't looking at this picture of you on my desk and now I'm looking at my laptop. And like the person you married is like a shell of that person right now because she's been working so hard. And it was crazy because I thought he would be, you know, concerned or worried and he looked relieved. It was almost like this like breath of like, give me back my wife, you know? And I think so many of us leave these 9-to-5s or we leave these careers to start businesses for freedom. And we build a 24/7 schedule that is not sustainable. And there is this thing, and you and I have talked about this offline, there is a necessary hustle to get things off the ground, right? There is necessary work. But what's happened is that we have created this culture where it's like, wake up earlier, work more, don't say no, keep your laptop open, never shut down. And that's not sustainable. That's not how we're supposed to be humans in this experience. And so the craziest thing happened, and I don't think I've told this to anyone. This isn't even in the book, but I cut back to 50K. I said, no, I drew a line in the sand and said, I will only book half of the weddings next year. I can't do another season like this. And when I got back my time, which now is my currency through life, I learned the things that you see me doing today that allowed me to grow a 7-figure company. It wasn't the 6 figures, it was the work. And I've never shared that because I never want to get it twisted that like it was the money that was life-changing. It wasn't. It was the time that allowed me to build a business that still affords me time. But when I claimed back my time, I went to 7 figures, not intentionally, not as a goal on the paper, but because I was building something that could run while I rested. And that's a big difference.
Rule number 8, create opportunities.
It's really interesting because for so long, like my big goal was 6 figures because neither of my parents had ever crossed that threshold, right? And so that felt audacious. And when I arrived at 6 figures, it felt empty to me. And it was really fascinating to me because I did start to think like, why am I earning all this money if I can't even enjoy it?
And there's actually a story in the book about when I hit 6 figures, I was so miserable and burnt out that I was like, screw the money. I'll go back to $50,000 a year. I was happier because I had more time. And being in Minnesota, it keeps you so mighty grounded, so wildly grounded. I freaking love it. And I don't ever want to leave because of that. But what is so incredible is like to me, I am a lifestyle entrepreneur, as are you, Miss Kathy. We're not achievement based. We are like, I just want to live a wonderful life. I want to bless others with the blessings that I have. And it has afforded me opportunities to help out my parents or to, be a donor in massive things and do all that kind of stuff. But what I found is that like money can buy us back our time. So when they say money doesn't buy happiness, I don't fully agree because it buys us opportunity and choice. Yeah. And to me, choice is freedom. And so I'm not saying earning more money will make you happier because there are thresholds. They say $70,000 and up. If you make any more than that, you're not any more happier. Your happiness doesn't keep going up with that. But if you can figure out a way to get yourself the freedom of choice, I think to me, that is like the best blessing you can give yourself. And so we were just on a call before this. We're building our first home, like a custom home. And we were like, we want everything. Stop telling us these options. We want everything. And I was like, well, now when I work, I'm like, that just paid for the waterfall countertop. And this project is going to pay. And like, it was just so funny because I'm still so like humble in that where I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is such a blessing to be able to do this and to tie my work to the things that I will enjoy means more to me than any amount in the bank. So
Rule number 9.
Be grateful.
In Lisa's book, she talks about how she was saying like everything was good enough, right? Like good enough. Why should I be complaining? Where it's like the gratitude turned in to the place that was keeping her stuck. Yeah. And I think that's such a fascinating thought. Like when she was saying that, I was like, my gosh, like nowadays, if I ever complain about anything, it's always with these caveats. Like I'm really stressed out as a mom, but I'm so grateful to have healthy kids and I'm so grateful to have a partner and all these things. And it's like, we've forgotten that this isn't like a comparison. Hard is hard. And when we're laying on the floor or however we're choosing to rest, what creeps in is like, I should be happy. I should be grateful. What is wrong with me? Everyone else would be so happy to have this situation. Why am I not happy? And what it's led to is I feel like so many people are just faking that they're enjoying their life. I don't know how many people, we know so many successful people and you see them just crushing it online. And if you sit down with them and ask them, how are you really? They're miserable. And you were recently talking about how, for so long, like money was the pursuit. Money was a pursuit. And I think for so many people, it is because it's a necessity. But when you put money above your time, when you treat money as the currency and not time, you start to spend your life trading your hours for dollars to not even be able to enjoy it. And so when I start laying on the floor, it's like, how am I today? How does today feel? Like, am I excited about what I'm going to do today? The second part of that is not just what does success look like, because I think a lot of us can make vision boards all day, right? Like we could go onto Pinterest, pin the house, the car, the outfits, whatever. But how is success supposed to feel? Because I'll tell you that my most successful moments are the least glamorous things. Like my most successful moments are things that people would never understand. It's like pancakes on a Saturday morning.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is learn to rest.
I used to suck at resting, which is wild because I am a masterful rester now. I have a chapter called the Soul Shavasana where like at the end of yoga where you are supposed to lay on the mat, I freaking couldn't do it. I hated it. I felt like I had to earn it. So I felt like if I'm not sweating enough, I don't deserve to lie on that mat. And I feel like a lot of the world is trying to earn the right to rest when it's like our birthright, right? Like we should be embracing rest. And here's what I want to tell people, because I know your audience, they are achievers. And achievers take this idea of rest thinking they need to earn it, and they're not willing to work for it. Rest for me requires just as much work as going full steam ahead.
Boy, isn't that true? Yeah.
It's like when you go on a vacation and right when you're about to fly home, you're finally unwinding. and you're right about to jump back into the crazy.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah.
I was with our friend, our mutual friend, Jamie Kern-Lima, and it was after her book launch, and she had worked so hard.
Oh my gosh,
so hard.
She did.
And we were sitting on this rooftop together, and I said, Jamie, it's like you need to do a couch to 5K, but in reverse. You need to teach yourself how to rest. It's like every day you just need 5 more minutes of rest, and starting to build up your tolerance for being still. And I know for me, like I yearn for rest, but I also have to work for it. Like I have to be mindful.
So good.
At like, I don't need to be productive right now. My worth is not in my output. How do I slow everything down? Even on the Uber ride over here, I literally was looking out the window because I could have been looking at my phone, and I was like, what do I see? What do I smell? What do I feel? Like, what is in front of me? And it was like just this practice of like, be here right now.
Yep.
And so rest is not innate for a lot of us,
So
especially
true.
the people that are just running.
There's this story in the book when I was a young little girl and I stayed at my grandparents' house, and we would all fight for this little corner of carpet in their bedroom. And we called it the cozy corner because we really just wanted to be close with them. And my grandma had taken like a little recipe card and wrote the cozy corner on it. And she put it like a little placard right in the corner of their room. And one morning I got to sleep in that spot, and I woke up and climbed into bed between them. And my grandma had said to me, she was like, Jenna, why are you so beautiful? And I was like, because that's how God made me. And I was so confident in that response. And my grandma, she's losing her memory, but she still remembers that story. And so she always, it makes me so teary, but every time I'm with her, she's like, that's exactly what you said. That's who you are. And you have to remember that. And it's crazy to me because I'm like, I wish I could like sprinkle that like 5-year-old confidence on all of us. Cause I'm like, where did we lose that? Like I watched my daughter called my mom the other day and was singing, let it go, let it go. And she was like doing this whole theatrical performance naked, running around her room. And I was like, when do we lose that feeling? Like, when do we lose that like unashamed, like, this is me. This is what's so exciting. This is what I love. This is who I am. And I think, and you know this better than anyone, being a mom, especially of girls, you're like, how can I preserve that? Because when did we lose it? Like, when did we lose it as people who are growing? And what's so fascinating to me, especially on my journey, is that I've pivoted so many different times and ways and done things I said I would never do. And it looks like it's like nighttime here now because there's a thunderstorm rolling in. But there's so many times where I've changed. But the reason why it's worked every single time is because I've stayed in pure alignment with who I am and what I feel called into. And when we are out there being ambitious women, a lot of times we think, well, this is what I'm known for, so this is what I'm going to show up as. Or people always tell me I'm really good at this thing, so I should just keep doing that. And we forget that, like, because that's how God made me. And a part of that is our ambition and our intuition that we have suddenly turned the volume dial off on and turned the world's noise up on.
Because you made it this far in the video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome.
For 10 more amazing rules from Marie Forleo, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
So we're living from the neck up, and many of us have lost touch with the wisdom and the intelligence that exists in our physical bodies because simply we're not moving enough. And as someone who's been a Nike athlete, fitness is a big part of my life.